Hello, Jallo.
Hello, teacher.
You here?
How are you?
Good, thank you. Hello, Ambre.
Bonjour.
Ça va?
Oui, ça va et vous?
Ça va, très bien. Pas de piscine cet après-midi.
Non, pas de piscine. Je suis la seule là sur le Zoom? Non?
Il y a Diallo, Mamadou.
Ah non, on est 3. Ok.
Ouais, voilà.
Les autres n'ont pas eu le lien, c'est pour ça ils vont arriver, je pense. Ils arrivent.
Parce que je n'ai pas leurs emails à tous, si tu peux, s'il te plaît.
Oui.
Je peux forwarder
Je le transmets.
sur le WhatsApp, voilà, sur votre groupe WhatsApp.
Oui, je le transmets.
Merci, Ambre. Don't worry, take your time.
Bonjour madame, juste vous dire que au niveau de la connexion à l'internet, peut-être que ça peut un petit peu bugger parce que la wifi chez nous elle marche pas très bien.
Non, j'ai rien du tout. T'as zéro? Parce que j'ai un billet de 200 euros.
Salam alaikum.
Lisa?
On vous entend pas bien.
Entendu, madame, ou
Wa
pas?
alaykoum salam.
Parce que moi, je ne vous ai pas entendu si vous m'avez répondu.
Vous m'entendez là?
Oui, là, c'est bon.
Ok. Oh là là. Vous m'entendez? Hello. Est-ce que vous m'entendez là? Voilà.
Madame,
Madame, on
bug,
vous entend.
ça bug beaucoup, madame. Ça bug beaucoup.
Ça bug beaucoup.
Oui.
Voilà.
Je suis Kianos, je suis avec le PC de Lisa. Ok.
Ah, vous êtes tous avec le PC de Lisa?
Non, non,
On est tous les deux là.
on est juste tous les deux.
Ok, ça marche. Hello, Chidiogo. I can't hear you. Your mic.
Hi, Fadwa. Good morning.
Good morning. How is it going?
It's going well. I made it.
Yep. So great to have you here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here and to already see so many people connecting.
Yes, we're expecting many more.
Wow, how many?
Looks like so the overall class around 50, but I had some people ask to join outside of the students group.
You mentioned.
So I couldn't say, no, that's why I sent you the email or a free message for that.
Fantastic.
Okay. So it's so shall we? Yeah, we still have a couple minutes to go.
So regularly, people don't join on video.
So generally, they activate their cameras when they are about to ask a question.
I see. Okay.
I think there are a lot of people intimidated by just turning on their cameras. So
I understand.
I'm asked, yeah.
It's why Clubhouse is so successful in some ways, right? Because sometimes we just want audio.
I guess so. Folks, I invite you to turn on your cameras for those of you who have the ability to do that. All right.
Oh, wonderful.
Hello,
that's
Marianne.
so much better. Oh.
Anwar, it's so much better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Such a great opportunity.
Yeah, if you can, yeah, please come on the camera. No
Yes,
judgment
please.
for how you look.
Exactly. It's just very, it's an incredible chance to have you here, Chidiogo. So don't be intimidated, please. Students, go ahead and turn on your cameras.
Vous voulez qu'on allume nos caméras, madame?
Yes, yes, please. S'il vous plaît.
Oui, madame, bien sûr.
Ça fait plaisir de vous voir.
Merci, madame, moi aussi.
Merci, voilà.
Teacher, I have a problem with my camera.
It's okay. Well, if you can, it would be good. Voilà, c'est super de vous voir.
but I
Hey,
can't talk.
Pierre. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Hello, teacher.
Hello, hello. So, shall we just get started? I think there are some people coming late. Oh, here they're joining little by little. All right. Hello, hello all. I'm so happy to have you all here, and even happier to have an incredible figure, Chidiogo Akunyili-Parr. So, welcome to this special way of doing things, which is the TBS Open Classroom. We've spent this term and talking this year and term, learning and talking about new and alternative growth models for a more resilient, more sustainable Africa. And as I'm speaking, hundreds and thousands of business leaders, social activists, and scientists, policymakers are continuing to shape this important turning point of the history of our continent. To crown this beautiful learning experience, we have this wonderful chance of having with us today one of the key shapers of this movement, of this turning point, Ms. Chidiogo Akunyili-Parr. So let me just give you a little bit of background, and I'm sure you've already looked her up on the internet, but let me do it in a more structured way before I give her the floor for her talk. So Chidiogo is the founder of Sheroes, a community that empowers female African leaders to unleash their full potential. She is a writer, speaker, storyteller, and movement builder who has impacted global narrative based on her belief and championship of the power of people to change the world. Her philosophy is founded on the humanist African concept of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are, upholding and celebrating our shared humanity. Chidiogo is the Chief Community and Communications Officer at Ubuntu Foundation, driving the Ubuntu communities around the world to anchor the spirit and values of Ubuntu. She is a World Economic Forum Global Leadership Fellow, a fellow at the Harambee Entrepreneur Alliance, an Atlantic Dialogue Emerging Leader, and Associate Fellow of Nigerian Leadership Initiative. Named 100 Most Inspiring Women in Nigeria by The Guardian, 100 Most Influential Young Africans by Africa Youth Awards, 100 Most Influential Nigerians by Advanced Media, and Young Professional of the Year by Future Awards Africa, Chidiogo draws from over 15 years of professional experience in community building, business development, intercultural dialogue, strategy, and management consulting. Having lived and worked across Africa, the Middle East, Asia, North America, and Europe, speaking 7 of the world's languages, including Chinese, English, French, German, Igbo, Italian, and Spanish. Invaluable tools that bridge lives, people, and their global realities. Ms. Chidiogo Akunyili-Parr holds a bachelor's in international relations and political science from UPenn and Sciences Po Paris, a master's in international relations and economics from Johns Hopkins University, an executive leadership program, master's in global leadership, and from the World Economic Forum with certificates from INSEAD, Columbia University, Wharton School, London Business School, China Europe International Business School, and Cornell Tech. What an incredible chance we have to have you here with us today, Chidiogo. Thank you very much for graciously accepting my invitation. Without further ado, let me please give you the floor.
Oh, thank you so much, Fadwa. It's been such a pleasure from the get-go to interact with you. I met Fadwa in Essaouira a few years ago, and it's so beautiful that she reached out, and here we are. Thank you for all of you, and thanks for that bio readout. It's always, I feel really humbled to join you all and to know that we can share and learn from each other. That being said, thank you for those who joined on the camera. I do appreciate it if you can, but I also understand if you cannot. I think it makes for richer interaction where possible. I'm very conscious of talking at people without really knowing what they're desiring to hear. So if you're comfortable, and I really invite you to be, because this is an open space for us to learn and share, you know, having heard my bio, maybe done a little research, given the topic, what would you like that I speak to, right? Because that would help me tailor a little bit of a broad story and narrative to make sure that I can impart whatever learnings I've experienced over the years. And if you have to, I understand that everybody's, sorry. I understand that everyone is bilingual. So if you'd like to ask in French, please feel free, not a problem. I will probably respond in English.
Thank you. This is a very good comment, because I think many of our students would prefer to ask their questions and interact in French, or at least would feel probably more comfortable doing it in French as opposed to English, but both routes are open. So thank you, Chidiogo, for this. So do you want to hear about any specific topics, or do you have any specific questions?
Hello,
I
everybody.
think they were expecting.
No problem.
Oh, hello, Diallo.
My name is Diallo Mamadou. For me, especially, it's about your experience on life and work, environmental also.
Merci. Thank you.
D'accord.
Okay, while we wait for, or if, you know, to the extent that there might not be more questions, and just know that that's the energy and invitation for the rest of the session. So if you do have a question, let's make it interactive. I'm going to put something up that comes to mind when I think around the roots and the anchor of my life experiences. Maybe we can, if you want to share it on your screen, Fadwa, that could be great. Otherwise, this is a link that shows you an image of something called Ikigai. Who is familiar with it? I can only see about 10 people. So just, this, I see Mariana. Marianne is familiar, Tessa, beautiful. The Ikigai is a beautiful framework to think of life experience and to really sort of anchor some of the things that I want to share with you. Just maybe scroll down. Scroll down, scroll down. You see an image of different color circles. And that's it. There we go. That's the Ikigai. So this is a beautiful framework, because ultimately, if I had to just share my story, what I want to take away from it is that everything I do is to really work towards being in that center, that purpose space, right? Because ultimately, there are many people in this world, many talents, but what I can offer the world is at the core of what what I'm good at, what the world needs, what I love, where my passion is, etc. And the beautiful meat of all of that in the middle is my continued quest. And that quest has led me in all over the world over the years. You know, there was this voice always just pushing me to explore new things. And let's say, I'll start from the beginning. I'm born and raised in Nigeria. I'm from the southeast of Nigeria, Igbo girl. And life has, maybe just, let's just have that open. And we've had different opportunities. My mother won the green card lottery, which meant that I could have access to the United States. And that was such a great opportunity that opened up to have this access to financial support and education and all of that. But I could have stopped there and had that education, but there was something always pushing me to really just go beyond the borders of my own understanding. And that was meeting and exploring new people and cultures. And there's something for me that is fascinating about the human mind and how we all think and work differently. And language, I found, became this beautiful entry point into understanding people, right? Language carries so much of a DNA of a people. And this has led me to, the study abroad I did in Paris and Sciences Po, to learn French. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll learn German, and working in Germany in cultural diplomacy space. So I could walk through my CV, but the core of it was that something was telling me to keep seeking, that I was still learning. And a big part of my story is how I've taken that voice that is sort of was passive, just like in the back of my mind, like, yeah, go to China. It's going to be important to learn Chinese because China-Africa, this is why I wrote my senior thesis on the China-Africa relations and what was to come. And within that, there was just a lot of talk of neocolonialism, etc. And I was like, how can we colonize how can we be colonized again? How can we empower ourselves? So that being said, our own empowerment is to understand where they're coming from, understand maybe who we're dealing with, who this partner is, so that we don't have to be victims. And I speak as Africans, because that's the context of this conversation. So that being said, the voice just kept pushing me and encouraging me to learn and grow and explore. And my journey has been to take that voice that is in the back of my mind, just going like, yeah, China is a good idea. You get to learn Chinese and learn about this culture and this people and this partnership. And then afterwards, do your master's, because it's going to be important for you to understand global economics and how the world works in that way that can support you to never feel like you don't know enough, right? Because there was definitely that part in me before I got my master's that everybody knows so much more than me, and I can't open my mouth, and I should just kind of be quiet. But it's like, go figure out that nobody really knows and everybody's figuring it out, and make peace with that. And then the next step, and go the consultant route, where I'm a management consultant and working with, Fortune 500 companies, government, and find the part of that is true for me, understand how these people and organizations work, and see the parts of them that don't work, understand it from the inside, and then move on to the international organization space where you're trying to fix it, but also in the UN and the World Economic Forum, but also understand that even that space, while there's just a lot of beautiful initiatives and momentum, there's also flaws. So it becomes like, okay, so what, having learned all this, where can I contribute? And we can go back to the main screen, Fadwa, if we need. So that being said, that voice has now gone from the active to me now consciously asking, how can I contribute? How can I combine what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, what I know I can contribute to my purpose, vocation, and ultimately, to this Ikigai center. And that's the story of the founding of She Roars, right? Because I was working at the World Economic Forum, managing a youth community of global shapers across Africa and the Middle East, a couple thousand young people engaged in social projects in their different countries, really bringing me face to face with the power of the human desire to contribute to a better world, to each other. And when you can support that and support the community around that, just how that could go a long way. So understanding my love for mobilizing community, understanding my love for just allowing people to see something in a different way that they hadn't seen before, connecting to my people skills, just all these things, learning and seeing that moving forward, I didn't want to do management consulting anymore, for example. It just became clear to me. I don't want to work with business. I want to work with people. That's where my passion is. That's where I get activated. So why I'm sharing all of this is, where's that voice for you that is just oh, that's a good idea. How can you move it from the back of your head to asking, okay, what should I be thinking of? How should I be thinking of this? And then connecting to how it feels true. There's something about the truth that I think it's in DNA encoded in us. We feel something when it's true, when it's right. So just actively checking with that voice, with that inner compass, right? And this is some advice from like really beautiful leaders out there that I've now some I've followed for many years, is checking into that compass, seeing where you directing me, where is this, what doesn't feel right? Okay, I'm in this space, nothing feels right here, so I'm not where I'm meant to be. How do I pivot? And in pivoting, how do I check in on what am I, what just gets me like excited, right? Right now, I'm doing a whole community building initiative for Ubuntu Foundation. And, I'm gonna have to come up with different ideas and platforms around how we can mobilize community. And what I keep asking myself is, what is exciting me? Because if I'm not excited by the solution, it's not going to work, right? Because where we can activate is when we all bring our excitements and our passion and our skill sets, and we sort of combine it in this clarity of checking in with that inner compass and being very clear of the direction we want to go. That's where the magic happens. So I'll stop there and just see if there's any questions that this has inspired, sparked, and we can keep going in a conversation. Fadwa, please tell me if this works, this format.
Yes, I'm totally fine with that. It's, it got me really think about these steps of your life when you're really starting your career and you don't know where to go and you're not sure about whether your choice is really where you're going to make a difference. So, when we have here a community of young people who are thinking of what they're going to do next, especially in this context of pandemic where, we call these the ninja, no job, no opportunities, so ninja, no job, no income, no job, no assets. And so they must be asking a lot of questions about, am I making the right choice about where I'm going, what I'm doing? Is it okay to switch path to something else? Is it okay to, and what time is it okay to switch? In maybe these things like that could be routes to go. What do you guys think? Ali, are these questions you're thinking of, or just go ahead and, ask questions. It's an open floor. Tessa?
Alors, excusez-moi, j'ai pas entendu ce qu'Ali elle a dit.
Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter votre question, s'il vous plaît? Ali. OK. Joseph?
Oui, au fait, je vais poser une question en français parce que je sais que c'est une langue assez spéciale pour notre invité. Et la question, c'est concernant en fait le fait que si elle a dit que si on apprenait le chinois, c'est en fait pour ça va permettre à éviter une forme de récolonisation encore de l'Afrique. Donc, j'aimerais comprendre pourquoi et comment ça.
Merci beaucoup. Peut-être j'ai mal, vous avez mal compris ce que moi j'ai dit. Je reprends en français, en anglais.
Comme vous voulez, as you like.
Bon, j'ai fait les deux pour franglais. Non, j'ai pas dit du tout. Justement, c'est très, très important d'apprendre le chinois parce qu'en apprenant une langue, it's a beautiful, I think I said, window into a culture and a people, which is why I wanted to go to China and learn Chinese. So the neocolonization was the realization that a lot of the literature around China-Africa relations, when I was writing my thesis in 2007 or 6, was around that China is going to neocolonize Africa. And there was this question in me of, How can we neo-colonize a sovereign people, right? We've come so far. So we need to reclaim our power. We need to understand who this partner is. So we're not playing or we're not falling into a victim role, we as Africans. Hence my own journey of empowering myself as an individual, as a leader, to learn a language that I understand will be a beautiful avenue into understanding the people. Alors au contraire, je pense que c'est très important de comprendre le chinois parce que justement, ça ouvre beaucoup d'opportunités et en même temps, ça aide, moi, ça m'aidait beaucoup à comprendre like Chinese Africa relations et les Chinois et comment ils pensent et pourquoi ils font les choses comme ils font, etc. Voilà.
Moi, j'ai une question.
Oui.
Du coup, j'ai des problèmes de caméra, mais est-ce que le fait d'apprendre le chinois, ça a changé votre vision des choses et votre vision en fait de la présence des Chinois dans les pays africains, par exemple?
Je dirais pas seulement like because I learned Chinese, mais j'ai vécu 2 ans en Chine. J'étais à Pékin, j'ai fait 2 ans en Chine. And I think living in a country most certainly gives you a great insight. And within that, I was working as a consultant in the China-Africa space. So I was working with Chinese companies interested in expanding their work in Africa. So what I definitely learned, can you still hear me? I'm getting a note that my internet is unstable. Okay. So that definitely gave me more insight, whether or not it changed or not, that becomes a political space. But it gives you more insight when you live in a place and you understand how things work. But what I can say is the business is business, you know, it's like business focused. That's very real in the Chinese mentality. So, you know, we bring in a lot of sentiments into business, do things the right way, morality. But the Chinese way of doing business is most certainly, you know, we understand the game. It's capitalism, it's profit. So why are we kidding ourselves? Let's be straightforward and just go in and be true to the capitalist principle at its worst essence, right? So that becomes a case of, it's like going to the market to bargain. It's the prerogative of the person selling to tell you that it costs 1,000 dirham, even if it's 10 dirham. And you don't get to say you're bad. Your prerogative is to say, no, c'est pas 1,000 naira, it's 100 naira, for example. So that's the whole game of capitalism, is that you get to be a sovereign entity and someone comes and they bargain and they give you a bad deal, but you also get to say no. And unfortunately, on our side, we might not have counterparts, leaders, stakeholders that have our best interest at heart, the people. So I think that's where a lot of the issues arise. But the Chinese are very clear that they're trying to make money and they will try to cut corners or exploit wherever possible, because that's the worst instinct of capitalism in some ways that is real.
D'accord, merci. Donc, si je comprends bien, en gros, on attend beaucoup trop des Chinois de mettre de l'éthique dans leur pratique commerciale avec l'Afrique, alors qu'ils font juste du commerce. Et c'est à nous de refuser cette partie non éthique, en fait.
Absolument, absolument. Et je
Merci.
pense, bon, si on veut vraiment être loin, je pense que ce n'est pas que les Chinois qui ne font pas des choses de manière éthique, je pense qu'en général, mais eux, ils ne cachent pas trop, tu vois. Mais je pense que les autres pays ont beaucoup de... Alors, j'ai arrêté aussi.
Riyad, s'il vous plaît, votre micro.
Mais justement, I loved what Fadwa said around ninja. I think that's a really, really, really important thing to acknowledge in these times that we're living in. And I see faces, so I understand that you're younger. And this no income, no jobs, no assets, that's like, it just sort of like hit me. The reality is, right, because I come from a time where that was not the case. We were in the world, we're traveling, I'm in China, I'm in Germany, and all of that you're hearing, it seems like a story. It seems almost even to me like a story, right? Because I know that I'm in one place now. And but what I want to add to that that's coming to me, so I live in Toronto, in Canada for 2 years now. My work has never been here. I don't work in Toronto. I've worked I do shirors with like my clients, that women I work with are all over the world, and Ubuntu Foundation is mostly in the UAE that our headquarters is, and working with different stakeholders in different places, and working on a book, they're working with a publisher that is X. So what I really want to get at is, even though you might be in front of your computer and there's no job, and I know we're in different phases of life, the world has opened up online in a way that when I moved to Canada, everybody was like asking me, what do you do? Like, how come you're at home? It's like, I work from home, I work from my computer. I don't have to be anywhere. I've made that choice. I don't like offices. And now 2 years later, 3 years later, the world is now like almost caught up to meet where I was wanting to go, which is this work from home, work from anywhere. So maybe the one thing that I'm connecting with there is that there's become a bigger opportunity online to connect to organizations and places that you would be surprised are interested in your skills. You could be working with a company in China from where you are in Libreville or wherever that is. So really knowing that this time is a little more constrained, but within that, the interconnectedness of people, even more so online, is real. At least I've experienced that. And inviting you to not close yourself off to that, because we've worked for so many decades with the concept of working in the place that we're in. And I think that that model is breaking very, very quickly. And you can be where you are and earning different currencies, working with a company. Of course, that takes us to what's the skill sets that you're offering? What is it that the world needs that you can offer, that you can be paid for, that you're passionate? And that's where that practice comes. Becomes really powerful to find that thing that it's like, even you know that people want it, right? And you can offer it, and you can put yourself out there. And of course, the networking and all of that will always have to come in and start, and luck also plays. But I really feel, my heart goes out to this times and trying to figure it out in a time like this where the world has not even figured it out.
Marianne, did you have a question? Did you?
Okay, me, I was amazed, but by what you told, especially that, okay, I understand that very young, you started to listen to your inner voice, to make your own choices, which is, okay, different from the majority of us, I'm afraid, because a lot of people, they just follow more or less the road or the guidance that is given to them by others. And I would like to understand, and then it is later when you become a little bit older, like my case, you start to think, oh, but maybe this is not, I could listen to my own voice, to my inner voice, and do what I really want. So I would like to understand from your perspective, why was it different for you?
Oh, thank you, Marianne. This is a question after my heart, because this is the topic that I engage with so deeply, because it's something that I found to be the biggest key for my life in some ways. So thank you for identifying that. So I'll start with encapsulating the truth of what you've said, which is that, yeah, I was born the number 5 in 6 children. We were all, my parents had this dream of 6 doctors to, I don't know what you do with 6 doctors, you know, because my father was a doctor, my mom a pharmacist, but doctor by title. And we, as I said, we're growing up in Nigeria. And that was the thing they told us all my life. Like, oh, you're going to be a doctor. My dad would take me into a surgery room at like 5. And I think he did the opposite. I just hated everything to do with the like cutting open the human body and was not interested. And then it didn't help that my math wasn't great. So I think I sort of fully embraced that my math wasn't good, just so I would avoid medicine. So then it says saying at about 9, it's like, okay, you'll be a lawyer. It's okay. Just and I was like, oh, she talks a lot and she's like stubborn. She's going to be a lawyer. And that was what I had somewhere in my head. So I went into university with a clear idea I was going to be a lawyer. When I graduated and I decided I was going to do my master's that I mentioned, I just wanted to learn a little bit about the global economics and how it worked. And my master's in international economics and international relations, etc. My mom was furious. She was like, no, like, look at Obama, look at Condoleezza Rice, the years of Condoleezza Rice, look at every leader that comes to mind, right, which is often the American leaders. They all went to law school. You're going to be a secretary to Condoleezza Rice, you know, like, you're never going to, like, do the things you want to do if you don't become a lawyer. But to your question, Miriam, I was very lucky because I had a sister before me who wanted to be an artist. She didn't want to be a doctor. She started undergrad with medicine, pre-med, and she's good at math, she's good at science. She's that person that has the two. And then graduated and decided she wanted to do art. And any African here would know that that's like, what? Like, art? And this was a time that, you know, the art and music and movie industry hadn't broken out as much. This was 2000, maybe 5. So they were against it. And she stuck to her Ikigai and said, no, I really, really want to be an artist. And over the years, she went on to become, I think, one of the most successful artists in the continent. And now, you know, she's in the New York Times, etc. My father is like, that's my daughter. She's the artist. You know, and having that story as my sister's story was really, really impactful in a way that I didn't even realize that, because I saw that my parents could be wrong from a young age. I saw that if there was something about sticking with what you wanted, even when nobody could understand you, but you understood yourself. And having that role model by my sister was really powerful, because like, why, what, like, okay, I guess she was fine with just being unknown, unseen, poor, whatever that stereotype is, but she knew that this was what brought her happiness. So I'll park that story. So when my mother was then speaking and sharing it, it's like, no, I'm also going to take a little bit of courage from what my sister did and know that what's bringing me joy now, and that now connects to the inner voice and the truth, right? It's when you start connecting that the thing that feels true for you is also the thing that feels right. It's also the thing that brings joy and satisfaction. So it's like, okay, there's a connection here. And, you know, over the years now, my whole story with that is I've been experimenting with, like, you know, just listen to that voice. You can do it. It doesn't have to be about work. Maybe you just feel like a sense like, I should call this person. I should reach out. I should do that. Listen, pay attention, do that thing, and then follow what happens after. And this is something I've been doing for like a decade now, maybe a little less. Yeah. And seeing how that's where like it unlocks something. So basically I've been doing a very conscious experiment with listening to the voice, like hearing that inner compass, the guidance that comes through. And it could be as little as, you know, you need to like get out of bed, go for a walk, and then I'll like have the most beautiful morning experience. And it's like, I'm happy I listened and I got out of bed, because it's that part of me that just wanted to just stay in. For example, right, I'm using small examples to show how it can amplify from something small to something big. And over time, what you do is you build this incredible knowing that that voice is your greatest asset. That guidance, that compass is your greatest asset. And the more you can turn to it and say, like, what do I need? What do I need to pay attention to? What am I missing? What do I need to focus on today? The more you can get responses, it becomes like a new language. So I'm a linguist, you could call me. So I speak these 7 languages, and in some ways I speak an 8th language, which is the language I speak with my intuition, where I'm always consciously asking every day, no day goes by. So I have a practice that has helped me solidify it, if we're going to go there. And if you really want my tools, this is my big tool. This is my morning pages. It's I have about 20 of these, and every day I write in it. And this is me, just, I don't know if you can see, well, it's all Like this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
me just conversing with myself. Why? Because how you know that Ikigai is how you know your own true self. And how do you know anybody? How do I know you, Marianne? Starts with, cuckoo, hello, what's going on for you? What's the question? What do you have? It's a conversation. So when we create spaces to have conversations with ourselves, in this case, this is the morning pages for me. The term comes from a book called Artist Way by Julia Cameron. I believe, yeah. Artist Way is the book. The morning pages is a practice. You can Google it. I really love it. And I've been doing this for about 8 years, where every morning I wake up and I write 3 pages, just free flow of consciousness, whatever is going on, so I can hear myself. And this goes beyond hearing your intuition. It's also to just kind of declutter your mind from the distractions, because sometimes we can't be effective when there's so much we're carrying. There's like stuff going on in our lives. We're upset with our partners, with our family, with our parents. We don't know what to do. So you can like really hear your own inner turmoil and anxieties in this ninja moment, right? Like, oh, am I ever going to get a job? I don't know if I'm good enough. Like, so you can see how what you're struggling with a lot clearer when you sit with it and when you pull it out of yourself. So you're not just carrying it in your head in a way that is noise. I'm going to pause here and really say, like, I love this question because in many ways, a big part of my practice is listening. And when I listen, I can execute. And the more I can be in this pattern, the more I feel like I come closer to finding or being in my truth and Ikigai, because I'm always true to what feels right for me, because I'm always tuning into what that is. Merci pour la question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, can I ask a question?
Please, Basma, go ahead.
First of all, my name is Basma. I'm a student at TBS and I'm 20 years old. I just want to say that I'm very honored to have this exchange with such an inspiring woman. And especially, I want to talk as a young woman. I come from a very, very small city, and I always notice like all these barriers for women to achieve things. I want to most of all ask you how you broke that stigma and that being a woman of color and a woman overall, and that you achieved so many things, no matter how hard it was socially and globally, I guess.
Oh, thank you so much, Basma, for that question. My truth is that if anybody knows Nigerians or Igbo people, we have a very strong sense of who we are, in a way that I was not raised to feel that I'm a woman of color. I'm an Igbo girl, which is probably the biggest compliment an Igbo person has in their head, because we think we're better than everybody else. And I say this in a little bit of tongue in cheek, right? And within that, being a woman, I had a very, very strong mother and a professional. And I didn't have that role modeling of that I couldn't do anything I wanted to do, because I just saw my mom constantly pushing herself and, being the one struggling to make a better life for us in many ways, and never accepting no for an answer. So my truth is that I was lucky to have sort of, because the foundation that forms us is so important. So my foundation, my color was just never a disadvantage. My gender was not too much, there's some little parts of it where it's like, oh, you have to get married, you know that you have to learn to do certain things, so you find a good husband. So all those things are there. But within the success part, as I said, I was born being told I was going to be a doctor, right? So I don't have that fully. But if I had to really check into how I could answer your question without it being from my own experience, I think it really goes to what is the stories that you were told, Basma, as a child, around who you are and what you can and can't do. And how do you reject these stories for your own self, right? How do you sort of like go back to that narrative, the voices, the town, the expectations of you as a woman, and really do an exercise of maybe listing all the things, all the words, and all the things that come up when you think of that. Like, what was expected of me? What did I believe about myself? What did people tell me about who I could be or couldn't be? And then you can start seeing where that foundation is, and you can almost like consciously ask yourself then, what is the story I want to tell moving forward, right? Maybe you were told that, you know, there's just, you're going to stay in this small town, there's not much to do, you're a woman. It's like, no, like, I'm a woman. That does clearly, you know, like, so just reframe the story to be true to what's real for you as a woman, as, I'm going to presume, are you Moroccan maybe?
Yes.
As a Moroccan woman, small town, like, reclaim that identity to fit what is your truth, not what other people said or put on you, so that you're breaking the ceiling for yourself. So once you break through that, your own ceiling, which is often we don't even realize that we're being barricaded by other people's opinions and expectations of us, then you can step into now, okay, like, who do I want to be and how do I want to do that? And whenever that voice comes up, because there's the other voice that is like, oh, you can't do anything, you're a woman, you can say, hey, like, what's going on? Why are you saying that? Why do we feel? So you're constantly revisiting that foundation, that inner critic. I'm presuming that's something that you had, right? Given your question, and constantly challenging it and constantly imposing your, it's think of it as the metaphor of a garden. This garden was planted for you when you're born. People like put different seeds and grass and maybe put like random things all around. And you now as an adult, you get to say, okay, this garden does not make sense. This is not how I want it to be. And then you start uprooting things, right? You start taking out weed, maybe some things overgrew, maybe there are dark areas that don't have light and you want to expose it more, and you start planting something different. So almost you have to go through that as a woman, unfortunately, many women, because the things that were planted were not supportive to the truth of this beautiful potential that we have. And so how can you unmask that for yourself so that you can step into your truth?
Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
You can always reach out per email if you feel like you want to go deeper in the question, right? I'm happy to support.
Yes, thank you. It's so inspiring to see like you can succeed, like no matter who you are or where you come from, if you just fight for what you want, you can do it. Just so inspiring. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you believe what you want is valid and that you're validated for wanting it, then you can fight even more. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I will have a question.
Please, Rashid, go ahead.
Okay. I want to know if, in your opinion, young students like us must start a business like an entrepreneur or must get experience before it?
Tell me your story. Why do you ask this question? What's happening for you?
My name is Rashid Massa. I'm in Toulouse Business School, second year. And I have an idea. I would like to become an entrepreneur and start a small business for myself. But many people said it's better to get experience in the domain first. Then you will be able to know what you might do and what is not good.
Okay, beautiful. Well, there's so many layers to this question. One is, how deep is your pocket, right? How much can you afford to fail? Because the obvious answer is that the experience can also be starting a business. It's a form of it's one of the greatest experiences, right? Because you get to go through the whole spectrum. So we have to move away from the mindset that working for another is experience, but working with our own selves is not, right? So experience is experience. But of course, one end of it is maybe riskier because you're putting your money and your time and energy, and it could fail, which many businesses do as a fact. So that's kind of the first angle. So how I would look at it logically if it were me was, I have this idea, I feel ready, I'm excited. Maybe I don't have all the experience it takes. So that becomes like, okay, so I could listen to people, because now you're falling back, and advice is good, but like checking with yourself, what feels right? And then it's like, well, to be honest, I don't feel ready. Then maybe this is not the time. But if the part of you that's like, I'm ready, this feels so right, then it becomes okay. How within that do I get the support that I need? Maybe if I don't have the experience, why do I have to do it alone, right? Remember Ubuntu. It's the spirit of our strength together. So look at the part of the experience that you're lacking and see if you can A, find a mentor, B, find a partner, a co-founder, right? So that you can take their experience, like the idea as a co-founder that has that experience, and combine it with your own ideas, whatever that is. But again, the beginning is, am I ready? Does this feel right? And then that's a path that can say either no or yes, not what people say. What do you say? What feels good? And within that, if it's a no, I'm not ready, then what can I do to help me get ready? And if it's, I'm knowing that I can always come back to this idea, or is it going to be too late in 5 years and 2 years and 3 months, whatever? And another one is, yes, I'm ready. Okay, given that many businesses fail, am I okay to fail? Check. Can I get support? What kind of support, right? So it becomes, what's your story, and how can you always come back to what's feeling right? Check in, ask, but lean on people's advice, but don't conclude based on people say, so I should probably do that. Take what people say and then check in with what feels right.
Okay, thank you for this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I know, Pierre. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sophia. Hello.
I have a question. Hello, my name is Sophia. I'm a third-year student at Toulouse Business School in Morocco. I just have a question. When you said you need to know when you're ready, so I've already had like a previous experience with entrepreneurship and all of that. I had a small clothing business store where I made my own clothes and I sold that. I took care of everything, all the financial management and all that. However, I had to stop because of my study. I started it in high school. It proceeded on for 7 months, which was highly unexpected. It was only expected to be a summer project. So I thought about going back to it in the future, but I thought that I would just start my studies in commerce and business to get familiarized with the subject and all that. And my question is, how do you know you're ready to do this? Because in order to start an actual business, now that I have studied the material and the process that is truly needed while taking care of a business, I would like to do it right this time. You know, it's not just amateur stuff. So in order to do that, you kind of need investors, and it's kind of hard to get that kind of stuff here in Morocco, especially as a 21-year-old young woman. The investors wouldn't really know how they can invest in a business that is very unsure. You know, I'm still young. They probably think I don't have that much experience. So my advice, my question here is, what would you suggest for me? Would you suggest that I leave it until I graduate, or start right now, or start saving my own money, or wait until I graduate and then work on the investor, and then work for searching for investors?
Okay. There are multiple layers to this, and I'm going to get to all of them. I'm just going to start by asking Sophia, which of these 3 options you laid out feels the most exciting for you?
Well, definitely it's after graduating.
Okay. So what part of you is pushing you to start now and not wait until after you graduate, given that that feels more exciting for you?
Well, I most certainly can't start now because I'm under a lot of pressure from school. So it's definitely until I graduate. But it's just, I would love to start next year. I'm in my third year of bachelor, you know, but then I'll have to have 2 more years of studying. And it just feels like I'm missing out on time. I would like to start as soon as possible.
I feel like I'm not understanding. So you graduate in 2 years, but you want to start next year, even though you rather start after you graduate.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm going to finish I'm going to get my bachelor degree this year, right? Are you following?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my bachelor degree this year, but I just thought, is it best to start now, right after obtaining my bachelor, and continue pursuing my studies all while keeping up with the entrepreneur business? Or is it better to do it after I get my master's?
Master's, okay. And I'm going to ask again, which one feels better, after you get your master's or right after your bachelor's?
Well, it would definitely be better after I get my master's because I don't feel like I have the necessary capacity to start by now. I don't feel like I've gathered up enough information about the business world. But I just overly want advices about the investors. Do you think, which one do you think is best? Self-financing or reaching out for external finance?
I see. Okay, because you had 2 parts of the question. It seems like the first part you've answered yourself.
I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intention.
Don't be sorry. This is kind of part of the practice, is how do you, like, you know, I have to go deeper to really give you advice on when you should start, but it seems like you have a clear sense of when you want to start. So after master's, and that seems like you have 2 years. So if it seems like what excites you is to find investors, and it seems like the idea of using your own funds kind of feels heavy. So again, I'm just always inviting you to just check in on what feels right, what feels like exciting, so if self-financing feels heavy and you have 2 years and your question is, how can I get investors? I don't like to start my journey with the things that could go wrong. So I hear you starting your journey with, the investors might not think that this is good enough. So I haven't heard that you've approached investors. I haven't heard that you've heard this from them. I hear that this is your own idea that they will not want to support because of the reality of the country you're in and the financial situations at the moment, etc. So I get that. But I always believe in not giving up before I even try. And it sounds like you do have experience. You mentioned the coding that you've been doing for a few years. And so what I would focus on, if I were you, is not the part that is distracting me or weakening me, but the part that gives me strength. So you have an idea, put it down, start talking to people, start having tea, coffee, dinner, just telling people about it. Don't think of it as investors, think of it as getting ideas, growing the business, getting it stronger, right? And then maybe think of all the things that investors could say that you don't have. Spend the next 2 years building on it. And so that you can really show that, right? And we have to go deeper so I would say, don't give up before you start. Don't build on your weakness, on your fear. Recognize the fear, but almost solve for it as opposed to give into it. So if the fear is that investors are like, it's going to cost too much money, okay, maybe how do you get the business to be a little bit more, how do you reduce the barrier? Maybe you can do like a mix of self-finance and investors. What does that look like? How do you start fundraising? Maybe it's not investors, maybe it's a family and friends, sort of like Kickstarter type, right? You have 2 years to think about it. But the advice I can give without knowing fully your business model is, don't get lost in the fear and how it could not work, and focus instead on all the ways that you want it to work and what you can do, what is within your power right now to do and do that.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anwar, I know you had a question, and Pierre as well.
Well,
do we have 5 more minutes or more?
I think 5.
Oh, we have 5 more
Hi,
minutes to
Pierre,
go.
sorry.
I just would like to know, maybe we will be leaders of countries in the future. Why not? Maybe it sounds ambitious. What would be the advices you would give us?
I don't believe it's ambitious at all. And why I believe that we are and we must be, because, you know, if you go back to the first thing I shared, that Ikigai is that everybody
Désolée,
has
j'étais en
some,
réunion. Vous êtes avec nous? La
everybody has,
Non.
everybody has something to contribute. So, you know, the word leader has been destroyed so much, because when we think of leader, we think of the top. But I want to really sort of challenge that. I even when I use the word leader, I don't think head of state necessarily, or minister, or business leader, or whatever. I just, in everything you do, you are a leader in the way you show up, in the way you pick up that trash, you know, right? We could get very philosophical about this. So I think your question was like, what advice would I give? Know yourself, know what you have to offer the world. That's your leadership, that's your gift. And that's how we're going to change the world, is how we are not, because you will always be second place when you're trying to be like someone else, right? But when you're yourself, you always be like first place. That sounds a little cheesier than I wanted it to be, but it's, no one can do you as good as you. No one can combine your passion, your intellect, your connection, your abilities in a way that you can. So the quicker you connect to what makes you and what's special, what is your gift to the world, and the more you can go deep into that and grow that, that's your leadership. That's the gift that your birth and your being has for the world. And you showing up in that way fully is the best thing you can do for anyone. And that's your leadership, and it'll be recognized, and it'll grow, and it'll be seen, and it can manifest in different ways. But don't focus on the how can I be a leader as this thing that is there, but how am I a leader? How am I integrated? How am I true? How can I support those around me, my community, from the truth of what I can do and how I can show up, etc. That might not be, but this is to say we all have a role to play. So you finding your role and stepping into it and saying yes is the best thing we can do. And I think this is not a time, and our generation does not need that one leader. We need all of us to step up, because the challenges are so real and so big and so complex.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Correct. Do we have time for one last question? I know Pierre wanted to ask a question, and Basma as well.
Bonjour madame, et merci tout d'abord d'être présente. Vous avez beaucoup parlé de votre inner voice, mais d'un point de vue extérieur, est-ce que vous avez des personnes qui vous ont inspiré ou qui continuent même à vous inspirer, et sur quel domaine?
Absolument, merci Pierre, tu as raison. So it's such a beautiful question, because sometimes the inner voice comes through the voice of someone else, right? Like, I hope in this call, in this meeting, someone took something. If not, we always did a 1 hour, right? And that's okay. But sometimes it's something you hear in a podcast, reading a book, hearing a conversation, come across in a theory that just like sparks something for you. So those are my inspirations, right? The writers and the thinkers and the people that I connect with and can just inspire something in me that I'm just like, aha, they call it like the aha moment, or just sort of like a click or something. Like, we call it different things. It's like when it connects, someone else's truths or word connects to yours, it's like, yes. So name wise, I don't know if that's useful for you, because honestly, there are many. Like, I was deeply inspired by my mom, for example, as a person, and her words and her teachings. She was deeply inspired by her father. And this has led me, I mentioned I was writing a book that's I'm going to be publishing at the end of the year. That is the story of my mom, because I want her story and her voice to inspire other people. So there are many, it's like, I don't want to like feed you with my person, because it's not about it being like Oprah or whoever else is like impressive and big enough. It can just be the person that you don't know. It's like my husband, it's a child, your neighbor, the nature, right? I think it's a little more multi-layered than we like to impose on this one person who is a person that inspires you. It would be a shallow life if only one person is inspiring you. So my hope is that every single day you find points of inspiration and you're consciously like seeking it. This morning I was walking and singing, and that was my inspiration. It's just like wanting to just like connect to like a positive vibe before I came on. And here we are. So I hope that answers your question. Maybe at the core is multiple things should inspire me, and I hope that they do you too. And the key is always to find the ability to hear it, like, that felt right, that was important, and note it, and maybe go down that experiment route I mentioned of start checking how these things like grow for you. That thing that just felt right, follow through and just check in. It might be conscious or unconscious. And I'll stop here because I know we have a few moments. Merci, Pierre.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidiogo. I think we're running 2 minutes after the hour. I do not want to keep you.
I'm fine if you're fine. I can do a last question, but only if you're fine.
Thank you. I know that Basma just asked me if she can ask a second question, unless someone else who has not asked a question before wants to ask now. I can otherwise give the floor to Basma. Basma?
Yes, miss. Yeah, actually I had a question because as long as I remember, since I was a child, I always wanted to do politics because I always wanted to have this social impact and do something that will change the world. And I actually, after graduation in high school, I went to law school and it was just not for me. So I switched to TBS doing business studies, and I don't know, even I had Miss Fedwa for 2 years now, and thanks to her and other professors, I get to see that I can do impact otherwise. And we just discussed social entrepreneurship this week with Miss Fedwa also. And I just wanted to ask, like, when I'm in a society where people don't really accept changes because of cultural, religious, and laws that can stop you from growing, I wanted to ask, how can I have an impact, or how can I help people to see their fully potential without all this cultural and laws that will stop you? How can I do it smoothly without creating like this controversies or things like that?
Thank you, Basma. I would say the short answer, because I think it's a much bigger topic, is to ask yourself, how have you done that for yourself? How have you allowed yourself to see your potential without controversy, etc.? And I believe that our greatest teaching comes from the truth of our own lived experiences of that, especially something so personal as like the cultural norms and the challenges of breaking through it. It's very hard to teach someone in that case, in that context, something that you have not experienced, but it sounds like you've experienced a version of breaking through that, saying politics is not for me or law is not for me. I still want to have an impact. How else can I do it? Being open to exploring that. So how can you maybe teach people how to do that? How to say no to what doesn't feel right, open up to other possibilities, explore that, get inspired, right? So dig into your truth of how the key points for you on this journey of doing just that, and then find the key teachings so that you can use that and support other people that are far behind where you are now, that are still struggling maybe with an idea of how do I do this, because this idea of this is the only way I know to do politics, but you get to say, no, there are other ways because I was once there, for example. So that would be a short answer to your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidiogo, for taking the time to have this very honest, very candid conversation with the students. There's a lot to learn from a story. In every experience brings tons of knowledge and tons of inspiration. And you're such an inspiring leader because you looked inside first. And I think this is one of the lessons I'm learning today with you. I just loved the way you frame it, that don't seek that leader out there or somewhere high. It's just over there, right, Marianne? I'm so moved. I don't want to talk a lot. This is a floor for you and the students, but I just want to thank you for being so open to us and for just sharing all that. And I could hear that in the questions of students. I could see that. And, you know, sometimes there's this positive energy that goes, even if we're not physically together, but we can feel it. We can feel the vibes. So thank you so much, Chidiogo. I don't want to be holding you back from your duties. And
not at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure, Fadwa. I'm so happy you reached out. Thanks for remembering me from our brief meeting. And
you were exceptional. Come on, you were exceptional.
It speaks to you as a person. And I'm really like just from hearing from Basma and just some of the other students, the program, and it's so beautiful that such a platform exists. So merci, and you can always count on me. And honestly, Basma, whoever needs, if you have questions, maybe we can route it through Fadwa. However, I can share my email at some point if that makes sense. But please just know that I would love to support if anyone feels truly that I could, in a way that is useful for them, for you in a way that that you feel that I can step into that role. Just know that if that's your truth, I'll be there for you. So on that note, merci. Thanks, Marianne, for the smiles and the thumbs up and the encouragement and questions. And to everybody that's joined this call, I'm grateful.
Thank you, Chidiogo. That's an incredible opportunity. Thank you so much.
Merci.
Thank you all.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. And Miss, thank you for the opportunities that you gave us this week to meet.
Thank you. Thank you for asking such good questions. Thank you, Basma.
Really, thank you. It was very, very inspiring, and it was really a very good energy given.
Thank you, Basma.
Thank you so much, Miss.
Merci à toi. Merci.